I need the kind of love that.
What is going on, guys? It is Ruben back again. Youth sparking the revival. Extremely happy and blessed to be back in the booth another Tuesday. We got Ricardo in the booth as well, and John. Woo! What is going on, guys? Y'all doing good?
You go ahead. Yeah, I'm good. I've had a good week so far. I am excited to see the month of June and what all of it has in store for us. It's kind of crazy to think we're at the last day of May.
Yeah, that's kind of hard to believe. Like an entire almost year has already not even almost just in 2022 alone, we've gone through so many months already. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard to believe that time has gone so fast now.
It's true.
For sure. What have you guys been up to this week? We just got out of a long weekend. Anything big, exciting that you guys ended up doing?
I just rested the whole weekend because I just said, okay, listen, we've all been going at it. I think it's nice just to be able to take the time, relax, spend some time with family. I went a little bit out of town to go try some places to eat for the first time. So I was like, okay, I wanted to go try some of those places out. And it was neat to be able to spend that day with my family on Saturday. But I just rested after church on Sunday and, Monday.
Anything you recommend?
There is a good restaurant in Columbia, South Carolina. I have to specify. Columbia, South Carolina. It's called De Prados. They're like a breakfast/lunch place, so they're really good. So go check them out. And if you haven't and you really like brunch, I really recommend it because I had their French toast and it was really good.
That sounds good.
So,
for me personally, it wasn't really much of a weekend of rest. We were, between planning the birthday party for Amy and then all my family coming down and, spending time with my family and then kind of doing stuff for the, with the kids and stuff. I say today's probably my rest day for the most part. So, I mean, it's not, it was fun. We kind of stayed active, stayed lively. Really got to enjoy the weekend with the family. So it was fun.
Yeah, as you guys already know, this weekend past, we were able to go to Orlando, Florida. And so, obviously I was raised, I guess, the majority of my life in Fayetteville. But when I say, of course I was born, raised, my early childhood in Puerto Rico. Mm-hmm. I still consider, of course, Puerto Rico, that's the hometown, man. Mm-hmm. But when I say Orlando, man, that's the second home. That's the second home for me.
That's the home away from home.
Mm-hmm. Right. Besides Georgia, of course, Georgia's, I've grown fond of Georgia. It was just a culture shock to begin with, but, I can't, how can I say, I don't want to dog on Georgia. Of course not, and I say this because, Georgia has been a blessing to my family and I. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like biting the hand that feeds you. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. This has been the promised land for us. Many blessings, many things have come out of Georgia. My kids, homes, experiences, but just career development, even just a lot of things here in Georgia, and Georgia's been a complete blessing. So, but yeah, it's always kind of like interesting to go back and visit family, see how many things have changed, and how many things are still the same, and be like, oh, I remember, that's where I met your mother. at that Walmart.
That's funny.
That's cool.
Wow.
So it's just interesting. It's just interesting. But yeah. So you know what? One thing that we want to do is we do want to honor all of those fallen soldiers. We also want to honor those who have given some time of their lives to be able to serve our country. Mm-hmm. Not just soldiers, but also, armed forces, even, first line members with, firefighters, policemen, the whole 9 yards. We just want to honor you. We want to thank you for, all the sacrifice, the families as well. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the sacrifice that you guys do on a daily basis. especially with how difficult it is, for your family members. It's not just a sacrifice that you're doing for yourself, but it's also a sacrifice that family members are doing. So, we highly thank you for that. And we're always keeping you in our prayers. So thank you.
Amen.
Last week there was a little bit of technical difficulties. We weren't able to come back on last week, but with that being said, the week before we had a topic of discussion, and it was about the Jumpstart ministry, I guess you could say. What was the exact verbiage, John?
So we were talking about what our launch pad was for ministry.
Launchpad. I love the word. That's why I wanted to make sure that it was used.
Yeah.
The launch pad for ministry. And, before we get into today's topic, I just wanted to remind you guys that you guys are listening into 97.3 WMFJ Oasis de Bendice. Better? Am I losing it?
I like
No,
it.
that's
No,
not
you
I feel like I'm losing it.
have
a lot
not.
better.
You have not lost your touch.
No? All right, cool. Well, you know what? Thank you guys for joining back in today. Again, it is 6:39. We're here pretty much every Tuesday. We try to be here 3 Tuesdays out of the month. Second Tuesdays, there is Liberation Service here at 3265 Deans Bridge Road at 7:30. So we give way for the ministry, the church, to be able to prepare absolutely everything that they need to do without us having to be rushed off or having to rush them or kind of keep them from being able to do everything. So we give thanks to the pastor as well for the opportunity to be able to be here, the times that we are here. And with that being said, this Youth Sparking the Revival, remember that it is sponsored by multiple sponsors, and we wanted to just give them a quick shout out. So we got Karen and Jorge. They are lawyers here in the local community dealing with all immigration situations and also automobile accidents. So if you do not know who to speak to, you don't know who to call, you could call Karen and Jorge if you have any of those situations regarding those issues. Also, remember, if you want a new phone, you need better service, you need cheaper phones, whatever it is, cheaper rates, make sure that you guys go and reach out to Cricket Wireless so that way they can get you guys taken care of. You guys want a smartwatch, right? An extra line. You guys want a tablet extra line, whatever it is. Make sure that you take them, you take yourself, you take your family, take them all out to Cricket Wireless so that way you guys can get all taken care of. If you guys want some new wheels, you want to ride in style, ride in luxury, ride in comfort, make sure that you guys go out to the Miracle dealerships here in the CSRA. They are going to make sure that all of your needs are taken care of. So again, thank you for those sponsors that are always supporting. We appreciate it again. Speak blessings over you and your businesses. And with that being said, let's jump into today's topic. And today's topic is just kind of like a follow-up of the previous week's topic. So previous week topic, like we had just gone over, is about the launch pad for ministry, right? And an easy way to get in, how you should react, being careful about certain things. And today we want to talk about calling versus timing with ministries. And so before we completely go in and we all share our thoughts, our opinions, testimonies, so on and so forth, what I want to make sure that you guys know that you guys can do is you guys can go over to Facebook. Please make sure that you share this podcast, and not only that, but you interact. We love to hear and to see exactly what you guys are saying. Well, not hear, excuse me, but we would love to see what you guys are thinking about the things that we're saying. If you have something that you want to share, a testimony, an opinion, your Bible verse, whatever it may be, you want to ask for prayer, we want to pray with you. We want to interact with you. So make sure that you go over to the Facebook page. And the Facebook page, you can find it on is Oasis de Bendición, okay, Pastor Maestre, or you can find it on XV Extremistas Visionarios Youth Ministry. It's a mouthful. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You'll learn it. John has learned it. Ricardo has learned it. I'm still getting there, but it's okay. We're there. We're there in Jesus' name, right?
Amen.
But with that being said, no. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that we began off with kind of something that backs up this topic and what we're going to be talking about today. And it's found in Ephesians chapter 4. It's verse 1 through 3. And it says, I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness, with patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. And so I wanted to talk to you guys, and I wanted to mention this because there's a few aspects of calling, right? The calling for said ministry that you have, a few important details within those verses that it mentions. And you know, when we're talking about calling versus timing, why do you guys think that this is so important, especially leading off of what Launchpad for ministry should look like?
So for me, when I'm thinking about like calling versus timing, a lot of people say like, okay, well, this is my calling. I believe I've heard from the Lord that this is what I'm supposed to do. And sometimes I want to expedite that calling and do it outside of the Lord's timing. So I think about like, for example, in Acts, we see where Paul is called to go to the Macedonian people with his group of evangelists, his group of ministry partners. And in his mind, he could have thought, oh, well, I just need to go find the closest Macedonian person that's in this current city rather than traveling to the Macedonians, and then try and complete my calling here rather than trying to actually go and follow God's timing. Because there's timing in that. He had to have traveled. He had to have spent time building connections and trying to get to the place where God's called him to go. And so I think in the importance of discussing calling versus timing, we see it's important for us as believers to understand, like, yes, you may have a calling, but there's a timing to that calling. And so the fulfillment of that calling may not be immediate. So, yeah.
I like that. And it's not even just that, but it's also that there's an order to everything.
Exactly.
You know, there's an order to every calling that God gives us. And it's
That's
not
right.
even about that if he gives you that calling that you're going to right away start doing exactly what that calling says. It's not always going to be that way. Exactly what, you know, what John was saying. It's always in that timing, and it's easy to get caught up in the timing of things and say, well, I'm waiting so long for this to happen, and it hasn't happened. I haven't seen nothing. But when we focus so much on the timing and how long something is taking, we miss out on what God is trying to teach us within that time period that we're waiting. Because obviously throughout that time period, God is like trying to teach us something. He's trying to, you know, build us up. He's trying to train us pretty much. Like when you start a job, they're not just going to throw you. Well, any sane job wouldn't just throw you in there without teaching you the basics and how things are ran. Because what's going to happen is you're going to fail, right? Not only that, but you're not going to accurately be able to fulfill the job purpose or the requirements of the job that you were given. So it's very much like that in the sense that God isn't just going to always throw you into the mix of something and, you know, want you to do something that you've never done before in your life. You don't know how to do it. So it's always easy. And of course, it's always good to have that passion, that fire that you want to do it. But you also need to be willing to understand that you have to settle down, wait, let God guide you, because only God knows exactly when he wants it and how he wants it. So,
you know, I completely agree with you guys. You know, one thing that I was reading that's so interesting is 2 Peter verse, I think it starts at verse 5. So 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 5. It says, for this very reason make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue, and virtue with knowledge, and knowledge with self-control, and self-control with steadfastness, and steadfastness with godliness, and godliness with brotherly affection, and brotherly affection with love. For if these qualities are your and are increasing, They keep you from being ineffective or unfruitful in the knowledge of our Lord Jesus Christ.
Wow.
For whoever lacks these qualities is so nearsighted that he is blind, having forgotten that he was cleansed from his former sins. Therefore, brothers, be all the more diligent to confirm your calling and election, for if you practice these qualities, you will never fall.
Wow.
I think, one of the biggest things about calling versus timing is just like you had mentioned, both of you had mentioned, a lot of times we just, we think about a launch pad to ministry, and we think that sometimes we need to be immediately in the ministry that that we know we're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And many times what ends up happening is that, we're transformed, right? We accept Christ, and, the word says that all creations are made new, right? Through Christ. So we're transformed, we're made new, we're born again. But it says here that if we lack the qualities, we're so nearsighted that we're blind, having forgotten that we were cleansed from our former sins. In other words, many times what ends up happening, and this is again my testimony, is the pastor put me through the media, and although I don't think I did, and I didn't do the very best of representing many of these qualities, I can look back on it and I can still learn from my mistakes, though.
Exactly.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I can say, you know what? It was because of now I'm seeing this reoccurring situation that used to really irk my nerves, maybe, or just make me react a certain kind of way. Now I know I just need to relax and take it easy, and I can handle it a different way.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? And what's so interesting out of all of this is that while you are like doing as it says here in the verse, continuously you make every effort to supplement your faith with virtue and virtue with knowledge, and so on and so forth, and you keep doing it, right? You won't fall, is what it says. So within these ministries, yes, I mean, we're not perfect, right? But it's going to be to the point of where, I mean, how many times have we unfortunately seen, leaders fall out of ministry because of a big situation that ends up blowing up?
Yeah.
And many times it's because they were just in there too early.
Exactly.
You get what I'm saying? And if you think about it, it can be the same thing in business. You know what I'm saying? I mean, in business, it can be the same thing. You put somebody into management and they fall out of that position just as quick as they came in because they just weren't ready for the responsibilities that it came with. And so I think that's one of the, one of the biggest dangers of it. We talked about, I think it was Paul and it was somebody else, but, I think it was Paul that was saying, you know what, right now, this person, is not the best for my ministry at this point. I forgot who was the gentleman. But he still told him, he still told, one of Paul's disciples, he told him to take the other gentleman with him, right? To do his ministry. He came back and then he said, you know what? No, now he's important for my ministry. You get what I'm saying? And so sometimes it's, hey, I need you to prepare because once you prepare, once you know this, I'm really going to need you. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I remember it was really interesting. And if she hears this, I am so sorry. I never told you this. This is my old boss. But, I remember beginning a job. One of my first jobs here, actually. I'm not going to say the company, but one of my first jobs here. And I remember that literally when I got hired, I said, I'm not going to be here long. Why? Because I knew as soon as I got married to Vanessa, I knew I wanted to be in banking.
Yeah.
I said, really what I wanted to be was an underwriter at the time. I was like, underwriter, that's my goal. I need to get into something with finance. And so I got that job. And I was like, I'm not going to be here long. I'm just not. Right? And I remember a client coming in. It was like my third day there, maybe. A client coming in, and the client was talking to my old boss, and he was telling her, he was like, you got a good one on your hands. And this is not me, tooting my own horn or becoming airheaded. This is just, again, my testimony. And so he told her, hey, you got a good one on your hands. He's going to end up being your right hand in this company.
Wow.
And in my mind, I'm like, dude, if you only knew, like, I'm probably not going to be here more than 6 months max. Ain't no way.
Yeah.
Ain't no way I'm staying here. And this is literally, honestly, how I felt. I'm like, I'm going to keep moving up. Little did I know, because she was like, really? You think he's, he's going to be my right hand? And he was pretty much prophesying. He was like, I'm telling you, I see it in him. He's going to be your right hand. This is a Christian man. So he saw something. And let me tell you, man, in 3 months, I got promoted to assistant manager.
Wow.
In 6 months after that, I got promoted to store manager, which is the right hand of the general manager.
Wow.
And so I was her store manager.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I was her right hand for a while. And again, I'm just 100% honest. Like, I literally, the first day through those doors, I'm like, yeah, I am not going to be here long. I'm squeezing the juice out of everything that I can. I'm going to gain as much knowledge as I can, as much experience as I can, and I am out. I think I lasted there 4 years.
Wow.
It was either 4 years or 2 years, one of the two. That's 2.5 years.
That's crazy.
But nonetheless, I mean, the job was able to give me the blessing of being able to purchase my first home. It gave me management experience. So again, we're talking about, not only did I get to store manager, right? She ended up getting promoted out as well.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
So then I had another general manager that was over me. But 6 months after that, not even 6 months, I think I had that store manager for maybe like 3 or 4 months. And I ended up getting a call saying, hey, we got a new position opening up at another branch. Do you want it? It's all yours if you want it. You can take it. And I was like, what? Thank the Lord. It was, I've always been, we thank the Lord, we've always been blessed. We've been favored, but one of my biggest things is that, the more you're blessed and the more you're favored, the more you need to give. And I've been, thankfully Vanessa and I have understood that, it's like with what is it? With these, with power comes great responsibility. With blessings come great responsibilities.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or with great favor comes great responsibilities, and that's to bless others. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what the Lord has always put on Vanessa and I. You know what? I'm going to put you in these places. I'm going to bless you with XYZ thing, but you need to bless others as well. And so I think that's always been at really, at the top of our list as far as when it comes down to, where the Lord has brought us to. And I think that's important for everyone. And I'm not saying this just financially. This is even in ministry. No matter where the Lord is putting you in ministry, whether it's to serve or now you become you start to come to take more responsibility. Now it's always your turn to give and to serve as much as you can. And so the word says it. I mean, he who exalts himself, the Lord will humble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he who humbles himself, the Lord will exalt.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because one thing you said was that you need more responsibility, and I think that the biggest thing, the common mistake that we have is that we want speaking for myself, we want all the glory and all the honor in the sense of fulfilling that calling, but we don't want any of the responsibilities of it. So we get so frustrated that we want all this, we want all this, we want all this. And God's like, you're not ready to handle that kind of responsibility, so I'm not going to give that to you. So then we get frustrated with God. We're like, God, like, seriously, I'm sitting here doing this, and that. And God was like, yeah, but you still got to go through all this in order for you to get to where I told you I was going to get you to. So it's very interesting because it's funny because I received my calling very, very early on after I got baptized, and I hated it. I hated my calling. I didn't want it, and it was to evangelize. And I hate it because I don't like talking. It sounds very self-contradicting, but I'm very bad at talking to people. I'm getting better now. The Lord's working with me on that. But I was very, very bad at talking to people, interacting with people. And when I received that calling and I was going to be an evangelist, I was like, what? It's like, I don't want this. I was like, this is so boring. I remember I had that. I was not only was I very immature spiritually, and I didn't understand the responsibilities over that, but it was just like, man, like that's not what I wanted. And over time I grew to have this overwhelming love that I want to do that. That's what I want to do for the Lord. But I've seen how God has little by little taken me step by step, right? And it's something that we need to understand is that there's going to be others that have received a similar calling that we've received, but they're at a different part in that calling. And it's not, we can't look at that and say, why are they all the way up there, but I'm all the way back here? And I'm sitting here doing all this, and they're sitting here doing more than what I'm doing right now. So, and I say that because that was me. And it's kind of funny because I love John. And I know that, I've seen how God used John so powerfully, and I know the calling that God has given him. And there was times I see John and he's doing all that, and I'm like, man, like, this was before. And I was like, man, like, why can't I be doing all that? And I would get so frustrated, not with John, with myself. It's like, man, why can't I be at that level? I know that that's what you call me to do. I know that that's what you want me to do, but yet I'm still stuck here and he's doing all of that. And the whole time God was like, because you're not ready for what he has already. He's already been through that and he knows what he's doing. So you have to be, you have to stay in what I'm giving you right now. And I've learned that lesson now that, slowly but surely, it's like, I've learned that God, and it's so interesting when I mentioned when we were talking about the Launchpad of ministry, that we're not always going to be stuck on one specific ministry, right? Our whole life. And I've seen how God is working me through different ministries, but he's teaching me everything I need to know to fulfill my calling through these ministries. So it's interesting to see how God is like, literally like, I'm teaching you this. And even then, like I was talking to my sister-in-law's brother, because we went to church together and they were my worship leaders for a long time. And I was talking to them and they were, and we were just kind of sharing like recent, experiences with God and what God has been doing. And just talking to them, I realized, wow, God, you're literally teaching me. You're literally training me. And it's like, it's good to understand that. And, focus in the ministry that you're in. Stop looking at who's next to you and how far someone is. And just because your friend started at the same level, now he's further ahead. Don't focus on that, because at the end of the day, God is giving to each one their capacity of which they're able to handle. And that's the same, and that goes back to the word of the parables with the talents. God gives to the person what they need to, what he knows they're capable of doing. We can't be the person with the one talent saying that because I only got one talent, I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to cultivate in that. I'm not going to work in that simply because I only got one. And obviously he doesn't trust me. So I'm just going to leave that alone, because at the end of the day, what's going to happen is we're doing a disjustice. Did I say that right? I think I did. I think I said it wrong. Injustice. Oh, my brain. No, injustice, not just to ourselves, but in our obedience to God and to those that we could have reached in that area that God wanted to use us in. So we need to be willing to focus on that and not focus on how fast we need to get to somewhere, because at the end of the day, in the timing that you're going to learn so much more if you focus and you pay attention to what's happening around you.
I agree. And I think that kind of brings to mind two examples for me, one scripturally and one from a person I know. But the first one talking about Abraham, It's kind of the same thing. He was given a calling. We've talked about this in the past couple of Sundays, a couple of Sundays ago, where they received a calling, where he received a calling, and it took him years to be able to step into the fullness of that calling and the fullness of that promise. And there was a timing with that. Same thing with Moses, like we were talking about this past Sunday, like with the burning bush. I think that was part of what we were talking about this past Sunday.
David.
And we saw David.
I was literally thinking that one.
And
yes.
I feel like David's would have been frustrating, or even Joseph's, Joseph.
Exactly.
Yeah. Joseph, I mean, when I think about Joseph, he's like, okay, all of you, my brothers are going to bow down to me one day. And they're like, huh? Excuse me? It's like, you're the youngest. What do you think you're saying, Joseph? But Joseph is like, no, that's what the Lord showed me. And they're like, okay, sure, whatever, Joseph. But I mean, you see these people who had to wait on the promises of God for a long time. I mean, the only one I know chronologically, like how long it took, was Moses. It was 80 years total before he got the calling. And then it was so many decades after that he finally like stepped into part of his calling. Yeah. So I think it's interesting that when we think about calling, it doesn't have to be immediate, and I'm glad that you said that, Ricardo, and kind of bringing that full circle, just because when we talk about what it means to follow Jesus, it's not our right to dictate when we step into the fullness of those callings that we receive from the Lord. And so I think that's important. And kind of like what you were talking about, Ricardo, there was a young guy that I saw on social media a couple of weeks back. There was this big conference that they had 3 or 4 years ago called The Send in Orlando, and then it was in Kansas City again this year. And a friend of mine who is an evangelist, she was sharing about how a former brother in Christ of ours who is very young, he's like 18, 19, she had known him from education experiences and things like that because she was a teacher. And he was on stage at this conference, and I mean, it's not like a little conference. There was at least 50-something thousand people at this conference. And they have all the big name people from Bethel and Elevation and Jesus Culture and things like that. And so I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, wow, the process, like you're saying, the processes that people go through. You have no idea where God takes people to get to those moments in ministry, whether they're super old in the faith or whether they're brand new to the faith. I think it's important that we don't try and compare each other's processes. Because a verse that was coming to my mind was Colossians 3:23, where it talks about whatever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord and not unto men. And that's a problem with calling, because if we do our callings unto men, trying to seek approval from other people or trying to elevate our status in the eyes of other people, then we've lost all sight of the purpose of the calling. Because the calling that we've been given is not so that we can glorify ourselves, but like what you were saying, Ricardo, was to give complete glory and honor to God and not for ourselves. And so I think that's something that's crucial to remember about all that.
I love the story of David. I love it because he was anointed at such a young age above his older brothers. Nothing happened. He went back to what he was doing in the fields and farming and sheep cattling and herding the sheep. And a sheep herder at that time was at the freaking bottom of the bottom. That was like, dude, you're nothing, pretty much, is what they were viewed as. So to see that David went from that, from being anointed and being told that you will be king over Israel one day, to such an amazing calling to have to go back to that life. I can't imagine the amount of humility that he had to have and say, I know my God and I know that his timing is perfect, even though I'm still back where I'm still right in the position of where I'm at. We got to remember that, because just because we receive a calling from God doesn't mean that it's always going to be, he's going to take me from here and he's going to put me over here. He called me to do missionary work, so he's going to send me out to Africa. That's not always the case. He called you to do missionary work. He didn't tell you where. Right. He didn't tell you where. You see what I'm saying? You're so focused on going out to Africa when there's people here that need that need missionary work already as it is. That's right. So we need to realize that in each one of our callings, and I love the way that God works it, because there's differences in our callings. Just because you were called in evangelism and I was called in evangelism doesn't mean we're going to be doing the same thing. Exactly. God's going to use you in a different way, just like he's going to use me in a different way. And he does it for a reason. And it's so amazing to see that, and to the story of David, when it came to the time where God finally was going to use him to take down Goliath, He literally said, I've taken down bears and lions with my own hands. I've literally rescued my sheep from them with my own hands. You know what that is?
That's what I'm about to. I was about to touch up on that. My bad. But
No. I mean, that's not even possible. That's not humanly possible.
No.
For you to take on a fully grown bear and a lion by yourself, and not even like as a big man, as a kid, and you still win and you still save your sheep. God prepared him for that moment, and he knew it too.
That's right.
That's the amazing part. He's like, if I can do that, this guy's nothing. This guy is just, he's just an obstacle to knock down.
That's right.
So it's just to see that when you focus on what God is doing around you, that when you start to see that God's moving you into the bigger areas of life, you'll be like, this is nothing, because God already prepared me for this.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Instead of saying, oh, I want to be in this big area, and then you push so hard, and then you fall, and then you're literally looking at God. I'm like, what happened?
Exactly.
What happened? I thought you said this was my calling. God was like, no, I didn't tell you right now. I told you to wait.
Right.
So it's just to see that, you know.
It's true.
You know, I just recently saw a video on Facebook, and to me, it wasn't funny, but it was kind of like a shocker video, like jaw-dropping video of this guy that was messing around with the lion in a cage.
I saw that one.
Right? And he kept just playing around with it, poking at his face, right? And the lion kept trying to bite his finger. And one, he didn't move quick enough. I don't know what he did. The lion got a hold of his finger. And the guy was, I mean, again, both feet trying to push off of the cage to have the lion let go of his finger. And I read the comments that supposedly even tore off his finger. I mean, like the lion tore off the finger. Wow. And I think about David, you know, David being, again, a pastor over sheep, right? A sheep herder. And although it being the lowest of the low, right, for that time, he ended up having to fight a bear, and he had to fight a lion. And the word says that the enemy is roaming like a roaring lion, seeking who he can devour. And so if you think about it, you know, David was anointed king, right? And before that, he also had to take out who? Goliath, right? And do you think that if he wouldn't have gone through the experience of learning how a lion maneuvers, his sneaky ways, right? Him hiding within the bush fields, or just the enormous size of a bear itself standing on two hind legs, that he could have taken down a giant? It was because of those experiences that he was able to take that into his arsenal to go and prepare for Goliath. What's so interesting to me is, if you think about it, he even took 5 stones, and we talked about as to the why he took 5 stones. It was for his brother, for Goliath's other 4 brothers.
Wow.
So if you think about it, David, how did David fight this bear, and how did David fight a lion? I mean, we talked about, you know, I gave a preaching over this as far as being camouflage and how lions attack and how they hunt, and they hunt by sneaking up pretty much on their prey for the most part, and if not, they go head on to try to distract them, make them run the other way, and the other one ambushes them from behind. But for the most part, they're always trying to sneak up on him. And if you think about it, it puts David at a point to where he had to be ready at all times. You see what I'm saying? It pretty much put him on a it puts him on a it changes the dynamic around. Instead of being on defense, he wasn't waiting. He didn't beat Goliath and like, oh, if they come, they come. If his brothers come, they come. This man was on offense, came with 5 stones, not so if he would miss. No, he knew he wasn't going to miss. He came with 5 stones ready for his brothers to come as well.
That's true.
That's crazy.
You see what I'm saying? When you go through these experiences that the Lord has put you in before getting to your true calling, right? You're no longer playing defense when these lions come attacking you, when the enemy comes to attack you, when these spirits are attacking you, because truth be told, you're going to receive the most darts from the enemy when you're working for the Lord in a ministry. When you're searching for God, it is most when you're going to receive darts from the enemy, attacks from the enemy. And as opposed from, again, him, David, waiting and, I'm just going to fight defense if he comes. No, he was prepared. And that's exactly what the Lord wants for us to be, is to be prepared, to be on offense. That if something happens, if something attacks us, attacks whoever's within our ministry and underneath us as, as leaders, I say this as leaders. In this case, let's say the youth, we are prepared to play offense, not defense. Yeah. You get what I'm saying? And even before they attack, we are playing offense, covering them with the blood of Christ, praying for them, interceding for them consistently.
Exactly.
And it's only through those experiences that you know what? When I wasn't looking for God, the enemy left me alone because I was his. But it's now that I'm looking for the Lord that I'm receiving these dark. You know what? Let me stay prayed up.
Yeah. And that should serve as an encouragement, right? And I say that because recently, these past 2 weeks, Karina and I, we were talking. We were like, okay, we need to anchor ourselves more in God. I was like, we need to push ourselves further. We need to search for God more. We need to organize our life properly, and that's been one of our biggest struggles since we've been married. And like 2 weeks ago, we were like, okay, so we're gonna do this right. We got everything in order. We got our house in order. We started to build habits. We started searching for God together more. The next week, last week, Sunday, I came out sick. Monday, I was sick the whole week. Sinus infection all throughout my body. My body was trashed up. I felt absolutely horrible, right? I started taking medication. I started feeling a little bit better. Wednesday came. We were getting ready to, receive my parents and everything. The water heater pipe in our house busted, flooded out half of our kitchen. Oh my gosh! And we were sitting there, we were just talking, and all of a sudden, boom! Shh, literally just sprayed, took off the popcorn off the ceiling and everything, and it was unexpected. We weren't even expecting. It caught us off guard. And I quickly turned off the water. Water was everywhere. We had to clean it up. Called the landlord. Not even 5 minutes after I got off the phone with the landlord, we noticed the baby had some kind of allergic reaction all over. Like he started developing like hives over his body. We didn't know what the heck was happening. So then we had to run. We had to run to the children's hospital because we didn't know what the heck was happening. And thank God it was nothing serious. They were able to get him something, and it was slowly, starting to come down. But it was just to see like that whole time. I wasn't mad. I wasn't frustrated. I took. I was like, wow, the way the devil tries to work, the way the devil is. I'm not one to say, oh, this happened. It was the devil. But for me, when I see that something happens back to back to back to back to back to back, and there's like consistently something happening, especially when we're trying to do something for God, I know there's no coincidence in that. And I was like, wow, the way the devil's trying to come at us, right? And it was just interesting to see that. And even after that, when we had to stay at a hotel and everything, because, we had no running water, we had nothing, and it was just interesting to see like how God was like working in the midst of all that. Regardless, God still provided, God still blessed us, God still worked with us. So it was like I was saying, it's like now we need to search further, because to me that serves more of an encouragement more than anything. That now I know we're in the right spot, we're heading the right direction if all this is happening. So I know that we can keep going. So it was just, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because sometimes we get frustrated. We're like, I'm trying to do something right and everything's going wrong. But in reality, you're doing exactly what you're doing. You're doing it right. But just because everything around you seems like it's going wrong doesn't mean that you focus on that, because that's exactly what the enemy wants you to focus on. Exactly what you said with the tactics with the lion. You get you see what I'm getting at? The lion's gonna distract you and keep you away from what you were doing so that it could come around you and blindside you. And that's exactly what the devil's doing. He's trying to blindside us and then trying to completely veer us from what our goal and what we were trying to do by frustrating us, by taking our eyes off of what we were trying to do. So it's just, it's crazy to see that, and
It's true.
And in those moments, when you use that, instead of getting frustrated and getting upset, when you use that to say, I know my God, and I'm going to go further, you begin to see something shifting you. You begin to feel it. You begin to see that there's nothing that the devil can do to me that my God can't bless me tenfold for. So you see what I mean? It's just, it was just amazing. For me, it was an amazing experience. I know that some people will be like, I mean, you had all this happen to you. It's like, yeah, I had all this happen to you, but it taught me something out of that. And it's just so amazing to see that, to see that when you're doing stuff right with God, obviously the devil is going to be like, yeah, well, you're trying to do right. Well, I'm going to come at you tenfold, So it's just, and relying on God is the key to getting through that, obviously.
Amen.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things about that, and it's something that is interesting that you mentioned, is that throughout, those moments of the struggle, I guess, right? You said, you know what, this is where we need to continue to press forward, right? We need to continue to look more for Christ. And John 15:16, so John chapter 15:16 says, you did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give it to you. What I find so interesting about this is exactly that. I mean, those are fruits that you're starting to show. It's that maturity of like, oh my God, as rather than, oh my God, what am I going to do? What's going to happen? Instead of freaking out, it's, you know what? I'm going to look for God. And that's the maturity, once again, that we kind of we can go to with Jesus in the Mount of Olives,
Yep.
Again, anxiety, right? Maybe fear to a certain extent, stress for sure, right? But the first thing is, you know what? Come with me. Come with me. We're going to go up to the mountain. We're going to pray. We're going to pray. You see what I'm saying? And so, again, it says here that our fruit should abide. In other words, our fruit should be known. Our fruit should be seen. And that's exactly what what the pastor and Santitos have, preached about, 2 weeks ago and the week before last. That our fruits should be known.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? And so that's also what's so important within the calling versus timing. Is that if you don't go through these experiences, if you don't learn,
That's right.
many times you will start to put out fruit that is not good for others to be able to eat from.
Becomes poison.
You start to become poison, rotten, right? And so that's what's important. And they say that birds of a feather flock together. So when you start to show these bad habits, right, this rotting fruit, fruits that are not of the Spirit, you start. What ends up happening when have you ever gone through like a bag of grapes maybe, or of the container of strawberries, and you come to find and see that one was started having mold growing on it?
Yep.
You don't just pick those out.
You throw the whole thing away.
You throw the whole thing away because you're contaminating the rest.
Yep.
Exactly.
And that's what happens with you if you are not ready and you are giving fruit. I mean, it's one thing to appear nice on the outside, but if your fruit are not fresh, they're not fruits of the Spirit, you are going to contaminate others.
Yep.
It is your responsibility as well to know I need to step back. And it's your responsibility that if a leader notices and says, you know what, the best thing is for you to take a step back, it is up to you to be mature enough to realize it and not to take it as an attack.
Yeah.
That's right.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying? We need to be the word calls us to not to be jealous of our brother, but we do need to be jealous for the things of Christ.
Exactly.
true.
Exactly.
That's true.
Exactly.
We need to be jealous for the things of Christ. I'm super jealous when it comes down to the altar. I'm very there are things I don't do. Again, we talked about John. We talked about modesty, right? And
Yeah, we did.
one of the things that I mentioned is that just me personally, my conviction. I don't feel comfortable wearing a hat on the altar.
No,
That's just me.
yeah.
I mean, others don't take it wrong. That's just my personal conviction. So I'm not attacking anybody. But what I'm saying is that I hold to a high regard the altar itself. And so what I'm getting at is that that's exactly how we need to be with our ministries as well. Not that our ministries belong to ourselves, but we need to be jealous of protecting our ministries. There's a big difference. Not that nobody can ever take over or join in or so on and so. No, it's you need to be jealous to the point to where you're protecting and care for and nurture it. And the problem again is that many times is that we become title happy.
Yep.
We become maybe microphone happy.
Ooh, come on.
Right? We like to hear our own voices.
That's right. That's so true.
And we like to hear our own voices that many times we think that others like to hear our voice. You see what I'm saying? And what we end up doing is, again, sometimes we speak way out of place. And the reason being is because, again, we learn this out of the abundance of our heart, our mouth speaks.
That's right.
And again, we begin to contaminate. We begin to spoil the rest. And that's the importance of timing.
No, yeah. Were you going to say something?
All I was going to say was that kind of goes back to the two examples we talked about earlier with Abraham and David. I mean, you have these two examples of where people have a calling and people are still looking at them in the midst of their calling. Like with Abraham, when he goes off to Egypt and disobeys God in terms of how he interacts with the leadership there, he almost has an issue with the Egyptian ruling class because of what he does and how he says, trying to think he has total control of his calling and does everything within what he thinks is right. And so ultimately it gives him a bad reputation with those people there. But then we look on the other side of it, we look at David, who was very respectful of King Saul, even though he had been called to become a king of Israel, and then Saul was trying to murder him. And when David had the opportunity to murder Saul and kill him, he didn't. He still showed great respect and reverence for him, only just cutting the edge of his robe and saying, hey, look, I was this close to you, but I still respect you as the king of Israel for now because that's what God has put you into place right now. And it's important because people will see that at the end of the day. I mean, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't talk about what David's men said about what David did with King Saul in that moment. But you have to understand they probably had great respect for him in that moment, honoring who God had put into place at that moment as king of Israel. And for us as believers, what we do in the midst of the waiting for the calling to be fulfilled is important, because you may get to a stage where you think you've attained it, and there's still people looking at you, so you can't act one way or the other that could easily mislead people in one direction or the other. And so as we step into our calling, I think it's important about how we hold ourselves.
I agree. That's 100%. One thing for me that I've learned is that, much to what you guys were saying, is that you can't let it get to your head. Like you say, you get title happy, you get microphone happy.
That's it.
That's the biggest thing, and that's pride. And that's the biggest thing the devil will use, because he'll see, and that is, I'll get to that, but that is that's the reason why we have to consistently stay humble and remember what God has done for us and where God has brought us out of. Because I remember one time we were talking on the radio, and this was months ago, and I can't remember what exactly we were talking about. But we were talking and everything. Radio ended. I got home, and Kayana was telling me how somebody had messaged her and was, telling them, was pretty much applauding, how I talked and how much wisdom I was showing for such a young age, this, and that, and I told myself, I was like, oh, I'm not going to let that get to me, because then that's going to be a problem. But unfortunately, I did let it get to me in my own mind. Obviously, it didn't show, but in my heart, it was there. The pride was there, like, I have all this wisdom and blah, blah, blah. I remember one time John was giving class, and anything John would say, my mind would go blank, and I could not talk. I could not think of anything. I literally, there was no words that would come out of my mouth. And I was like frustrated, and I was like, why is this happening? You know, I always have something. I always have something to say. And God was like, that's to show you that your wisdom is not that's not your wisdom. That's my wisdom. That comes from me. That doesn't come from you. So remember that next time.
Glory to God.
And I was like, wow. That's why I realized, like, wow, that this isn't me. This is God. Like I'm such an idiot that I let it get to me. Then I let it fill my head up with all these ideas that, oh, like, you know, I'm so this, I'm so that. And God's like, no. Remember that this came from me. This isn't come from you. And, you know, that brings me back to the story of Paul talking about the thorn in his side, how God will use anything to humble you and to keep you humble. And it's important to understand that, because I personally can relate to Paul, because that's what that's what I go through on a daily basis. And much like in Paul's situation, I don't rejoice in the fact that I am dealing with my struggles. I am dealing with this thorn in my side, but I do rejoice in the fact that it keeps me humble and knowing that that this is, you know, what comes out of my mouth and what I say isn't me, it's God. And that I'm just a tool for him to use, and that's it. You know, there's nothing more, nothing less. You know, I mean, there's nothing more out of me that comes from me. It's not me, it's God. So it's something that it really helps me to it reminds me to humble myself and know that I'm not anywhere near to the level to where Jesus was, and I'll never be to that level, because that's why Jesus did what he did. He's the only one that could attain that level. So it's so amazing to see that, and also remember that, you know, when you guys go through that, you guys have these things that, you know, to look at the bright side of things, to look at the positive. Don't stay in the negative. Don't say like, why this, why that, why this, why that. You know, there's always the reason why for everything that happens in our lives, and you know, be very, very careful when God blesses you with something, because when you mishandle that, God can easily take away blessing just as easy as he gives it to you. So you have to be extremely, extremely careful about when how Arun was saying, you have to be very jealous of the things of God, because that comes from God, and that is God's. That is not ours. That is not anyone else's. It is God's. So we have to make sure that we show the respect and the honor that, you know, to God. You don't go to a courtroom if you have, you know, in front of the judge and you're wearing a hat, your pants are down here, or you're wearing shorts and sandals. You don't do that, because you're before the judge. That's the man that's going to determine what's going to happen to you. You show the respect and you show the honor that judge has acquired over the years of what he's done. So when we go to in front of the ultimate judge, when he was talking about the altar is something that needs to be, and God has shown it in the Old Testament many times, how jealous he is of the altar, and how jealous he is of people trying to, you know, people going up there and contaminating the altar. He is very, very zealous of that. So we need to be willing to do the same for ourselves, which is our own body, our temple, as well as the altar and the church as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that you were mentioning is, you know, it not being by our own wisdom and so on and so forth. I kind of wanted to read something for everyone here. 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 8 through 9. It says, "Therefore do not be ashamed of the testimony about our Lord, nor of me his prisoner, but share in suffering for the gospel by the power of God, who saved us and called us to a holy calling, not because of our works, but because of his own purpose and grace, for which he gave us in Christ Jesus before the ages began." You know, thank you, Ricardo, for that testimony, because I think it is important. You know, many times we believe that we get to certain places because we deserve it.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? No, I did this and I did it all on my own. And, you know, at the end of the day, it's God who gives us the ability, the capacity, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be able to get to those places. And so first and foremost, the glory needs to always be to God. Amen. You know, my testimony for the longest, you know, Ricardo, when you first met me, was, man, I had been coming to this church already for a while, and it was nothing about the church. It was me, myself. I was extremely upset within myself because, again, I knew where I needed to be at. I knew what the calling was, and I just wasn't there. And it frustrated me so much that I disconnected for a while. That's my testimony. And, you know, thankfully, you know, I just, you know, the biggest things that were really like, binding me in my spiritual warfare, was, you guys already know it's music. It was music and a few other things that I needed to work on within myself. And from there, I was able to start, it was pretty much kind of like when cowboys do those lassos around a bull. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what God did with me. Finally I was able to break out of that cage that held me bound. And I was able to finally be able to come to Christ and since then really I haven't had any yearning for those things that, the music, the music was my biggest thing. Mm-hmm. Nonetheless, what I'm getting at is, as far as for you guys, I want everybody to understand, know your calling. If you don't know your calling, come to Christ and ask him to reveal it to you.
Yes.
It's as simple as just asking him to reveal to you what your destiny is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always interesting because your destiny and your calling can always evolve.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Your destiny and your calling can always, you're not always going to be, for instance, Ricardo, you're not always just going to be an evangelist for Augusta.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's right.
You're not just going to be an evangelist on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think he wants to confine you? That's not God.
Nope.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you think so, that's your own mental capacity putting God in a box.
Yeah. And yourself in a box.
True.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, so I'm sorry. I don't want to throw hammers down.
No.
I'm not attacking you.
No. Yeah, go ahead.
I say this because Jeremiah 1 verse 4 through 10, and I know it's a few verses and we're at time, so just bear with me. Now the word of the Lord came to me saying, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. And before you were born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet to the nations. Then I said, Lord, God, behold, I do not know how to speak, for I am only a youth. But the Lord said to me, do not say, I am only a youth, for to all to whom I send you, you shall go, and whatever I command you, you shall speak. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you to deliver you, declares the Lord. And this is something that the Lord is telling each and every one of you guys. Do not consider yourself as someone who cannot speak simply because of age. And not just you, this isn't just youth, this is a youth by age, this is maybe youth by spiritual maturity, he thinks. Mm-hmm. Why? Because the word even says that the Lord will use the foolish to humble the wise.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Lord can use anyone. I mean, the Lord used a donkey.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Literally.
If the Lord can use a donkey to speak words to someone,
That's right.
are you less than a donkey?
That's crazy.
You get what I'm saying?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I don't consider myself to be less than a donkey. I'm a stallion, baby. that's in the voice. That's in the voice of donkey for sure.
I'm so glad that's what you were thinking of, because that's what I thought of too.
I love it.
Y'all see, I'm a stallion, baby.
That's so funny.
But yeah, so, guys, do not let that be an excuse. Do not be afraid. Allow yourself to find yourself in the presence of the Lord.
Come on.
Why? Because the presence of the Lord follows you whenever you allow it to, because it's within you.
Mm-hmm.
We think that the presence of the Lord is only when it's activated at church, and that's not the case.
Nope.
Do not
Nope.
sit here and allow yourself and what people say or what other people's knowledge and where the Lord has brought them to hinder you and what you have to say.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
As long as the true gospel is spoken, it does not matter what length of time you've been serving the Lord, as long as the true gospel is spoken and you are proclaiming the Lord Christ, God is using your words.
Wow.
And that's one of the biggest things that we need to make sure that we do. One, as leaders; two, as people within ministry, is that the Lord always uses our words. You know, I mean, and this even goes to the security team. I mean, the security team, yes, of course, is to protect. That don't mean that the security team needs to mean mug in church. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They can say a guy, and this is not any shot at our security team. You know, Leo and all them are doing phenomenal. I'm just
No, yeah.
it's a joke. But nonetheless, but seriously, all of us can be led by the Lord, and that's the biggest thing that we need to be asked, that we need to ask for, is to be led by the Lord. That what our words, that the words that we speak are led by the Spirit.
Come on.
Not by us. That we can be used as tools for the glory of His kingdom. That we can be used as instruments, and that our words are melodies for people, but led by the Spirit. You know, this is what I have, guys, for calling versus timing. Make sure that it's that if the Lord has given you a calling, whether it's in a different place, at a different maybe in your own ministry, right? Make sure that it is His timing.
Amen.
And the biggest reason is because the Lord does things in order.
Amen.
The Spirit does not do things out of order. And if it gets to your head, will it last? Will it truly last? This reminds me of the teaching that Daniel Jimenez's brother brought. Why will God give you another car when you can't take care of the one that you have?
Be faithful in the little, and He'll bless you with more.
That's right.
Why will the Lord give you its own ministry when you can't honor and respect the one that you're within?
That's right. Come on.
And so it's extremely important, guys, that we understand that calling versus timing.
Amen.
That we take in and we're sponges. That we take in all the wisdom, all the experiences.
That's right.
And that we can take it and we can filter it out through life lessons and moving forward. With that being said, I'm finished, guys. How about you guys? You guys have anything that you guys want to add?
For me personally, it was just that remember that for every calling that we have, we all have the same purpose. And, calling and purpose go in hand. And the purpose that we have in every single one of our callings, whether it be evangelizing, worshiping, pastoring, preaching, whatever it is, it's all the same purpose, and that is to spread the news of the gospel, make disciples of the nation, and spread the good news of Christ and what Christ did on the cross. So always remember that, guys, and that, you're receiving that calling, but remember what the sole purpose of that calling is. And by remembering what the sole purpose of that calling is, you'll be able to better understand where God is trying to take you and why you're doing what you're doing. You can't receive a calling and not know why you're doing it, because then you're just literally just doing something blindly without knowing what's the purpose behind it. Yeah. So knowing the purpose is important. Know that and understand that, and stick to exactly what God has called you to do.
Awesome. Amen. And like what we've been talking about this evening, we have talked about a lot of individuals from the Bible, figures from the Bible who stepped into their calling, and we get to read about them. But if you want to see some modern day people who I believe have stepped into their calling, please join us this Friday. That's the one thing I wanted to let everybody know. We have our free concert that we're going to have here at the church with Christofari. They're a group that's going to be coming in, helping us celebrate the 2nd anniversary of Radical Flow, our sister program here on 97.3 WMFJ. So please make sure to come out to the Christofari concert here at 3265 Deans Bridge Road, Augusta, Georgia. The concert starts at 7 p.m. this Friday. So if you'd like to hear some great music and have some great fellowship and get to see how God is going to use some amazing musicians, come here and join us on Friday at 7 p.m.
Yes.
John, I'm gonna tell Leo and Kenny that you called them sisters. Okay.
Oh, sisters.
No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But yeah, guys, come on out. Also, remember that tomorrow we have Youth Chapel. Starts at 7:30. We're gonna begin with Worship Wednesday. So come on out, so that way we can fellowship together. We can praise the Lord, and we can also receive a word from our one and only Ricardo. With that being said, guys, also, yes, just like John had mentioned, Friday, come on out. Make sure that you come and enjoy our brother. No, I'm just kidding. Our sister.
Oh my gosh.
our sister program, Radical Flow. What a blessing. 2 years in. So much fun over there with those guys. Those are at Thursdays at 7, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
So tune in. Remember, you're listening to 97.3 WMFJ. You can download the app on the Apple App Store or also on the Google Play Store. Make sure that you visit one of these sponsors or all of them if you want. Jorge and Karen, they're lawyers dealing with all kinds of immigration situations and also automobile accidents. Cricket Wireless. Make sure that you guys get some better service, some better coverage, some better phones, and you guys can get the whole family that new iPhone 13 or Samsung 59 or whatever they're on, right? But make sure that you guys get and hook up the entire family for the low rates and the low prices that Cricket Wireless has to offer. If you want to ride with some luxury class, you want to have the spinner wheels and everything on your new ride, make sure that you guys go check out Miracle Dealership, the Miracle Dealerships here in the CSRA. And go and get blessed by them.
Yes,
They're going to definitely take care of you. They're going to take care of you as family. Make sure that you heard from them excuse me, through Oasis Radio. Wow, I just did like a Spanglish there. Okay. Nonetheless, guys, again, thank you so much for listening in. Make sure that you tune in next Tuesday. We're going to bring a completely different dynamic. Again, that's Spanish. A completely different dynamic here to the program. We're gonna be bringing something interesting. So make sure that you also follow us on that Facebook page, so that way you guys can interact.
Yes.
With that being said, guys, God bless you. This is Ruben, Ricardo, and John with you sparking the revival, and we are out.